go into a
And if that
5-minute
came over-
recess if we need to.
That's what I need.
We're ready.
All right, thank you. I will call this regular council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Brenda, would you lead us tonight, please? Would you lead us on the pledge? Remain standing for a minute, please. Heavenly Father, we ask for your divine guidance this evening, and we ask for patience throughout the evening so our decisions will reflect thy will. This past week at a prayer meeting, when we had a prayer at the Groundhog Breakfast in Licking County, the gentleman that had the prayer included a catchy phrase that I've been trying to repeat on a daily basis, and that is, have an attitude of gratitude. Thought that was catchy. Thank the Lord for everything he does for you on a daily basis, and you'll never have time for anything negative. For with the right attitude of gratitude, even the pitfalls and snags of everyday life will become nothing but challenges, something to overcome. So thank God for the good and the bad. Try to adopt an attitude of gratitude. And Lord, we ask that you bless all of us here tonight, and we ask for all of this in your holy name. Amen. Okay, Kathy, roll call for the 20th time tonight.
Howe,
Here?
Hayes, Barstow,
Here.
Lee, Pickens,
Here.
Walther, Carter.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum present. First thing on the agenda is citizens' comments, and we do have a gentleman here that's going to speak to us tonight, Mr. Rob Platt from the Licking County CHIP program. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Name and address for the record.
I'm here in the county capacity, so my address is 20 South 2nd Street, Newark, Ohio. My name is Rob Platt. As you stated, I am the representing the county's CHIP program. CHIP is an acronym for Community Housing Impact and Preservation Program. I've not had a chance to talk to you all in a while, so just to update you, I'm now at the county, and one of the things I've been telling you I was be writing some grants and administering the housing program for the most part of main part of my job there. And what we have, I'll go through just some basic information on it. I realize come back on the 21st and answer any further questions from your peers. I just want to give you a brief overview of it. Basically, the CHIP program, it's a housing rehab and repair program that is throughout the county. It's offered throughout the state, administered by ODSA, and it utilizes HUD funding, federal funds through different pots of money. Specifically, the three would be the home program, the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant monies, and Ohio Housing Trust Fund monies, all allocated to the state. The state then divvies that out to the different eligible entities. Licking County is an eligible entity. We've had the program, since the 90s. There have been times in the past where the county has administered the program for the city of Pataskala. But as you all are aware, we currently are limited in our computer systems at the county. Nothing to do with that, I promise. But one of the dudes in black suits and sunglasses have been hovering around my cubicle. I don't know what that means, but but at any rate, as soon as that all comes up, I'll be able to email out other informations. But I was not able to go back and look through the records to get an exact count, but I can assure you that we have serviced residents here in the city of Pataskala before. The basis of the program is to stabilize the housing stock, to preserve it, in a nutshell, to help keep our property values up, and that is, in essence, the intent of what HUD is trying to do through this program. The program runs on a 2-year cycle. The county did apply last year. It was not funded. Sadly, due to an error, when documents were scanned in as a PDF, there was one left out. And so the state gave the county a score of 0 because there was a missing paper. assure you that will not happen this year. I will be triple, double, triple, whatever, checking everything to make sure it gets in. We would have otherwise been funded. The state puts out the eligible entities. It's mostly counties, states, cities across the state. Pataskala is one of 3 cities, as you're aware, that are located within Licking County. Newark, being the biggest, is an entitlement city and gets their money directly from HUD. The other 2 become available are the city of Pataskala and the city of Heath. I will be going to them next week and hopefully alternating meetings as between the 2 boards of council. The county will apply. We are eligible for, if we have partnerships, $450,000 over the 2-year program. The beauty to this program is the state, like everybody else, is pushing collaborations. They want to see partnerships. So cities that are eligible, such as yourself and the city of Heath, are also eligible each for $350,000. Collectively, $1.15 million if the county partners with Heath and Pataskala both. I'm not sure that we can accomplish $1.15 million in repairs and rehabs in Licking County, say for the city of Newark, in a 2-year program, but we would certainly do the best we can. I envision this being an $800,000 or $900,000 application, and that is if the cities partner with us. There are different options for the cities. The city of Heath last year opted, even though the application wasn't funded, to join under what's called the county's umbrella. It still receives services. What that does not do is bring in the $350,000 that the city is eligible for. When the state's pushing for partnerships, there's an incentive for the cities to partner with the county. So I'm trying to get Heath to do that too, because really the reality is, and what I provided to you, and just really some notes and my thoughts on it and memo, is the county, myself, would still administer the program the way we always have. The thing we're asking for the city is to join us in a partnership on it, as opposed to not being involved at all and not enjoying the benefits of the program, and also not to just come under the county's umbrella, because then we're trying to spread a smaller amount of money over more residents. It's a great cost to administer the program staff-wise. It doesn't really make sense to have the city go out and do the endeavor itself. You would benefit from partnering with a county that already has the established program, and we collectively administer a program that benefits your city and the rest of the county. There are no guarantees, nor are we allowed to designate specific funds for the city. I couldn't tell you right now how many possible applicants you have out there right now. I just don't know that. We will put together an application ask. The county's sitting at somewhere to between 38 and 40 outstanding applications. So as you can see, we would be busy from the get-go. But the city joining brings that 350 available. If the city of Heath does the same thing, we've got a large amount of money that we can administer through the county and get a lot of results, a lot of outcomes. The end result, your housing stock is brought up. As I've said, we've administered this program in the past. I believe Morpsey may have even administered it for the city for a while. Perhaps it was done in-house, I don't know. But the end result is your houses that are not at the point of a walk-away or tear-down condition that still can be saved can utilize this money through HUD. The only avenue to do it is through somebody to administer the program, either yourselves or the county. We're happy to do it for you. Experienced in it, well-versed, have a good track record with it, and would ask that the city could consider partnering. The one main question is, okay, the city doesn't want to serve, or doesn't want to be involved as a just coming under the umbrella and just trying to spread the $400,000 thin. The city wants to be a partner. Well, what additional expense does that mean for the city? The county still administers the program, still runs through. Our director, Jerry Newton, myself, our housing inspector, we don't change anything the way we've done it in the past. Really, to be honest with you, and I think I put this in your notes, the things we're asking from the 2 cities, from Pataskala and Heath, or help us promote the program, help us get it out to the residents, make them aware of it. Maybe you get it on your website, maybe the mayor, maybe the administrator gets it in their comments in the newsletter, Facebook, however that is. Let our residents know that low, moderate income residents that qualify for this program that have a housing rehab or repair need can be served by the county, and the city's making that possible by partnering with us. So advertisement of it, I have on my last page there admin ASST, and I don't mean an administrative assistant. We're not asking for a staff member. I meant administrative assistants. And that's simply that maybe Jessica or somebody can just forward requests to us, because as soon as you advertise it, you're going to start getting calls on it, inquiries. Maybe she can help weed out who is eligible, who is not, things like that. But it would be very low level, low demand of staff time. And also there are legislation requirements. You would have to pass resolutions, partnering with the city, adopting our policy and procedures manual for the program, things of that nature. So asking the city to consider this greatly would help improve the program and open up more funding available. You have different options. It's completely your choice, but in the end, that's pretty much the net difference for the city. But one thing that I can assure you, you will receive a quarterly report from me on how, we obviously cannot disclose names, addresses, things like that for confidentiality, but you will know quarterly what activities and rehab programs are going on in your city, how many of your residents, to what dollar amount they benefited, things like that, because I think that's important to know. I'm happy to answer any questions. There are details to the program, eligibility requirements, funding. Repairs can be made up to $15,000, rehab up to $46,000. That has not changed from last year. But again, I'm happy to answer any questions and encourage the council to consider partnering with the county this year to put this program in place in the city.
So you would be working with our administrator,
That's correct.
and by March 24th, preferably, you would be asking us to adopt the 3 resolutions that are on this bottom of this page, joining the county as a partner, adopt the policies and procedures manual, and adopt a resolution to enter into a partnership agreement. Is that correct?
That is correct. There may be a resolution I missed. Again, I wasn't counting on missing a week of computer access to get my notes here, but I believe you're looking at right around 3 resolutions.
We have till March 24th. Any other questions that council may have? Mike?
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess the first question I have is if one of the aforementioned cities, there were 2, should choose not to become a partner, does that change the amount of money that you're going to get?
It changes the potential amount. The ask to the state is up to what the county and the cities are eligible for, which is the $1.5 million. In a partnership scenario, the county gets a maximum of $450,000. Each city gets a maximum of $350,000. That's where I get the 1.15. We may only have enough projects to justify asking for $800,000 or $900,000, and that's kind of the way I see it happening. Should this council decide not to be a partner, and you have different options, you may not want to be a partner, you may not want the program administered in your city, and you may wash your hands of it, then obviously the services aren't provided here. The other option is to do what Heath did and just fall underneath the county's umbrella. You still receive the services. The pot of money that would then be the county, and depends on what Heath decides to do. If that becomes the case, we're looking at $800,000 max would be spread. If Heath was to do the same thing and fall under the county's umbrella, now we're trying to spread the $400,000 because we don't have a partner, $450,000 if we have a partner, throughout all these different entities. So there's
Well, the reason I ask that is the scenario, is there a safeguard in place from you that if we're the partner city and Heath again chooses to just be under the umbrella, that a large number of funds are going to be going to the county? I don't know if, for lack of a better term, we got the extra money allocated, and now would they be used in a different area of the county?
Sure.
as opposed to the city? That's what I'm asking.
And it's a great question, and the state will not allow us to say, okay, the city of Pataskla is going to join as a partner. They're eligible for $350,000. We can't guarantee there's going to be $350,000 spent in Pataskla. It's simply the fact that the city is eligible in and of itself to apply for that amount of money. So if you come as a partner, that's what you're bringing to the table, basically. The additional cost, if you will, to the city is simply a little bit of staff time and the resolutions and stuff. But if Heath was to want to come under the county's umbrella and you guys decide to partner, now we're looking at $800,000 between the county and City of Pataskla maximum that we apply for. Is money still going to be spent in Heath? Absolutely. We spent it last round.
Sure.
Is it going to be spent in Newton Township or what? It's going to be spent throughout the county. We're going to serve whatever the needs are. Rank all applicants that come in just as we would with any. The ranking process does obviously put things like well repairs and furnaces and roof leaks and things like that at the higher list. So at the higher part of the list, so if the city has a lot of those, potentially you could have a lot of residents get served from it. But the concept is putting it into a pool of money. The alternative is you guys take on the workload and administer the program yourself at a cost, obviously, to staff, and you apply for your $350 that you would be eligible for. So I think that's what the state's trying to do, is push the collaborations and partnerships. But it all goes into a pool, and everybody gets served collectively. There's really not a designation.
Anything else, sir?
Not for me.
Mr. Barstow?
I have a couple questions. So there is no fee that the city has to pay to partner, correct? It's not like Grolikin County where we pay money and that's how you.
No, that is correct. There's no
Okay,
cost to the
all right.
city.
The other question is who decides? So let's say that we partner and he's going along with you guys. I think you called it under the umbrella. So who decides what projects get done?
Sure.
You have all these applicants come in from around. This is all over the county, correct?
That's correct.
So who decides who gets what? Who gets fixed?
There's a rating process, and we do it two different ways because we have the rehab program, we have the repair program.
I'm not
Obviously,
asking
different amounts.
how you do it. I'm asking who does it.
Who does-
Who's the entity that does it?
Oh, the county does. We're administering the program.
Okay.
So if you were to adopt our policies and procedures manual, which would be a requirement, in that manual it says how the applicants are going to be rated, how the projects are going to be rated, and that would be administered
Okay.
evenly throughout. So
Okay.
it's done by the county. our
Okay.
office.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Mrs. Carter?
I guess, and maybe I'm a little foggy this evening. What's the benefit of Heath deciding to fall under your umbrella versus partnering with you? I mean, that just makes a smaller pool of money, so I'm missing.
I don't have a good answer for that. I've been searching for that also, and I wasn't here last year when they the county put the application together. I don't know if I honestly don't know, and I was trying to figure that out with the state. The cities, the eligible entities, all could have their own program. Obviously, you pull everybody together. One entity's administering. It's like with any grant program. There's an administrative fee that goes with it to cover your costs and stuff. And if you've got 3 entities doing it, that number just went 3 times as high. But I'm not real sure. I don't know if it was an easy way out for them. If it was hey, we don't want to be bothered with additional legislation. Maybe they thought, hey, they're going to have to take on a lot of additional workload. Your front office is going to get calls because you're helping to advertise a program that you're offering for your cities through the county. So I could see somebody like Jessica getting additional calls. Obviously, the best thing for her to do is maybe help vet the eligible applicants and just forward them on to us anyways, because ultimately it'll go through us. But I've not figured that out myself. I don't know.
I'm trying to find out what the catch is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
I want to know if we said, okay, we'll do this, and then I'm just using Heath. I'm picking on them because they beat
Sure,
our boys in basketball the other night. So, but if they said we're just going to fall under your umbrella, then what is then taken from Pataskla? What are we giving that Heath is not giving?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously decreases the eligible amount of money that we apply for. With the 38 to give or take 40 potential projects that we have, a backlog, if you will, if I was to just assign a static number to each one of, say, I think I did 30,000 for rehabs because the max was 46, and I think I did 10 or 12 because the max was 15 on repairs. It's something like $650,000 in projects that are outstanding. And so, you know, if that becomes the case, let's say that both cities decide to go under the umbrella. From the get-go, we're trying to spread 400,000 to go over 650,000 that we already know is not going to be enough. If Pataskla joins in, okay, now we're potentially at 800,000, which would probably be the amount we would ask for because we're sitting on 650. You guys are going to have, you know, a dozen residents or so that could have projects. So that would kick that amount up too. But I don't know why a city wouldn't want to partner. I really don't understand why they wouldn't. I'll be at Heath next week, so maybe I'll ask them that.
I was gonna say, as a partner, do we get priority?
You get us administering the program for you is what it is. You could say no, we just want to come under the umbrella and say Heath did the same thing, and we're trying to spread 400,000 throughout the county. It could go that way too. But the projects are going to be prioritized equally between all three entities, if you will.
That would have been my question. And there's no accreditation. It's going to, if somebody's furnace is out in Heath and somebody's furnace is out here, it all falls in the same pot.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the way that our policies and procedures manual is, like I said, it gives priority to your furnaces and your potential life-threatening type things. This program is based on low to moderate income, based on the area median income determined by in the MSA, the Columbus MSA. And we look at the lower percentage of the income. So if I've got somebody if I've got 3 furnaces that their total household income is 30% of the area median, they're going to get priority over somebody that's at 78% of the area median or something like that. Because obviously the lower your income, the less chance you have the ability to make the repair. So there is a prioritization process in place, but it's administered equal.
Tim?
My question would be, one of the possibilities that I was thinking of is perhaps for some reason the city fathers at Heath didn't like maybe the book that we're supposed to adopt. When could we expect to see that if you're asking us to join? I mean, I assume that might have something to do with the computer problems that you've got, but be interesting to see.
I could photocopy it and get it to you and ask BJ to scan it because I can't send it to you by email right now.
But not holding you to it, do you think you could get it before the next?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, hopefully your computers come back up and you
I'm
can
hoping.
distribute it. Mr. Barstow doesn't have faith in that. Well, and if not, I mean, perhaps that is why, and I'd like to see what that says before we.
Yeah, sure. And it's the PPM, if you will, policy procedure doesn't hold the city to any additional workload or anything. It's simply the PPM is required by HUD for the program. There's a community development advisory committee, the CDAC, that's in place for your grievances for applicants if they have a problem with their contract. I mean, it's a structure. It's a federal program, so it's got all those requirements, and our policies basically mirror that and what the state requirements are. It's not like the county's come up with some great policies that, so
I got you.
very structured.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
When are you headed to Heath to talk to them about it?
I am before their Planning and Development Committee next Monday, the 13th, and then I believe they're similar to schedule to you. I believe it's 2 weeks later. I would be back to your council requesting legislation.
If you find out any information why they went under the umbrella last year, would you be willing to share that with us?
Absolutely.
Maybe something we haven't thought about?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then in the meantime, you can get the PPM to BJ. He can get it to us. And our next meeting is February 21st, which you have a deadline you'd like at March 24th. So we still have a whole month that we can look and talk and ask you some questions, right?
And the bottom line for the the deadline is that you'll see the application's not due till beginning of May. The problem is we have to hold 2 public hearings. Public hearing 1, I don't have to know who our partners are going to be and how much the dollar amount ask is and things like that. Public hearing 2, I do. So in order to meet those kind of deadlines, I need to know who's going to be partnering with
All right.
us.
Well, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Any other citizens' comments? Anybody wish to speak? Seeing none, I'm just kidding. Mr. Fox?
Fox, 11540 Broad Street, Southwest Pataskala. Mr. Mayor, I would respectfully request that when you have a speaker that you're going to allow a give and take between council members, that you ask for audience speakers who only have 5 minutes first. Because I sat here for 30 minutes and now I have comments on it. Because we've been through this before. I believe that if Mr. Barstow and Mr. Zetz and Mr. Walther and maybe some of the rest of you read those agreements you have to sign, you'll understand. There's some pretty sticky information in there about it. However, I've never heard all of this explained as it was explained tonight, and it sounds like a decent program, but I would think it's a decent program for the city to do themselves if they're going to do it, or consider it next year. So, and that, of course, would be the professional over here that knows all about these things, and he can give you your answers to that. But I do know that we've talked about it before. There's been issues with it. There's, as far as the agreements, signing the agreements, and that type of thing because of some of the restrictions that are put on it. So, that being said, I would like to talk about Oak Meadow and remind you guys that Oak Meadow, particularly you, Mr. Powell, because those residents have been in here begging to get their road done. Which brings up another thing. $6 million on a police station. When this discussion was started, we were informed by Jamie that there was enough money to do up to $5 million. So I'd like to know, before you guys pass this ordinance, maybe a simple report given to the public, how the $6 million is going to be paid for by the way we talked about paying for it when I was on council. Because we talked about specifically how it could happen and where it could happen. Well, an extra $1 million plus a year is a lot different than what was originally talked about. So I would encourage you to ask those questions and to get that information. In addition to that, I would encourage you to sharpen your pencils. You know, you've come up and the mayor told me tonight, well, we just found out what it was going to cost. Well, now it's time to sharpen your pencils because they should be sharpened. Then you've got, after that, you're leaving a building that you're going to have more money spent on that's already had $900,000 spent on it, and you're going to want to spend more money on that. And then I'm back to Oak Meadow. Oak Meadow. We've been talking about it for a year and a half. There's going to be $50,000 spent on it this year. I believe that's the right amount, but if I'm wrong, somebody can correct me. But I believe the amount was $50,000 for engineering in the budget, and that's it. But we just jumped from a $4 to $5 million project, and I'm taking your word for it that it's only $6 million, but you know, that's way over what we originally talked about in the first place, and that's without even putting the first shovel in the ground. So it's not uncommon, and I know there's some fluff money in there, but it's not uncommon for that money to go overboard. And again, back to Oak Meadow. Let's get Oak Meadow done. Let's get our streets done and our roads done. We earmarked money for the police station, but you've added $1.5 million or $2 million to it because we started at 4 and said, well, we think about 5, and now we're at 6. So I'd really like council to take that into consideration. I know you're going to be rushing this reading. It's a second reading, so there's a lot of homework to do. And if you don't have the time to do the homework, I do. Let me know, and I'll dig into it. If you don't think you're gonna get your homework answered, Mr. Barstow, before now and then, you let me know, I'll come in and figure it out. Mr. Powell, let me know, any of you, let me know, I'll come work on it. Because we'll get those answers, because to just make the decision and not get those answers, that would be a major mistake for the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else have any citizens' comments tonight? Okay. Seeing none. Introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Any discussion? And roll, please.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Was that everybody? I'm just not used to that. Okay, motion passes. On to ordinances. Ordinance 2017-4277 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Kathy, when you're ready, second reading.
Ordinance 2017-4277. This is the second reading, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $6 million of bonds for the purpose of paying part of the cost of constructing a new police facility and matters related to such bonds.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir. Mr. Hicken?
I'd like to make a motion to amend ordinance 201-4277 by substitution.
We have a motion to amend. Need a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion on the motion to amend. Roll, please. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, are we gonna have discussion on the ordinance itself, or are we just gonna?
Yes.
Okay, I'll save that till we get to the ordinance itself later on in the
Okay.
meeting.
Any other discussion on the motion to amend? Seeing none? Oh, yes, ma'am.
We could give the specifics of what we're amending.
Okay. Mr. King or Mr. Nicholson, who's the best to describe why we're
Either
amending?
or, I'd say.
The initial legislation was drafted for $6 million. Originally, before we had the numbers behind the numbers from the architects, they had included the design costs and construction management costs of about $500,000 in their number. We had then taken their number and added the $500,000 to it, which grossed up the number. But once we got the detail behind the calculation of their number, we realized that and a few of the other things was about $574,000 worth of costs that were duplicative. So we removed them out of ours, which took us to right about $5 million, and then with issuance costs on top of that. And then
Which brings it to not to exceed 5.5 tonight in this legislation.
Correct. The amendment is not to exceed 5.5, and that is
Exceed, that's the
correct.
key
not
word.
to
Correct.
exceed, and we would never borrow
Right.
more than is approved by council for the project and the issuance costs.
Very good. Okay. Any other questions on that? So we'll proceed with the motion to amend. Kathy, roll call, please.
Barstow,
No.
Was that a no, sir?
No.
Okay, no.
Hicken,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. To amend. And we're back to the original ordinance. Yes, Mrs. Carter.
I'm just going to make a statement, and I know we can't hold up city business because of circumstances of our other council members, but something of this magnitude, it does feel like we have an inadequate amount of people here to make a decision for something like this.
Sure.
And then the other thing on this, Jamie, is when are we going to get in a line item cost of everything? I mean, we keep talking about numbers, and they do keep going up, and we've, had the discussion for some time, but we've never seen anything that gives us the substance of what we're paying for, or what could be cut out, or what may need to be there.
Yeah. And I will certainly, last meeting when the architects were here, they provided a breakdown of hard costs, soft costs, and that's when that showed what each one of these costs are. And that's when it was explained that the soft costs had a portion in there that encompassed or included the design costs of $485,000, also some cost for issuance, permits, and everything. So that, we can certainly provide that back to council with a breakdown for it, but that was provided at the last meeting. Breakdown of it.
Any other questions? Yes,
I
sir.
don't have a question,
Okay.
but
Comment.
I agree with Ms. Carter's statement. I'm having a difficult time. I think I'm going to continue to have a difficult time supporting this legislation. The first thing is that I as the costs keep sort of a moving target. We are paying for this in part on the rentals that we receive from this building. That's part of what we're paying for. However, and again, I agree with Mrs. Carter that we're not all here, but I would encourage other members who are not here to listen to this. I've had discussions along these lines with one other member who's not here. But anyway, if something were to change, if these tenants were to find this building no longer desirable, some of them are public entities who can pass their own bond issue or something and build their own building and have their own thing, then we're going to lose that rental income. And if we lose that rental income, we still have to pay for the note. We're going to be borrowing somewhere between $5 and $5.5 million. And my concern is that our budget will not support that type of payment. And I have asked and would like to see what the payment would be on the different bond structures, whether it's going to be a 15-year, and I came in and I did talk to Jamie about this at some length. And I would like to do the 15-year because that is cheaper over time. But what we don't, it doesn't leave us with very much flexibility. We're going to saddle the city with a 15-year note or a 20-year note or whatever we're going to do, and if we can't make the payment, if we lose the rental income or the rental income diminishes, if we lose a tenant for a while, then we have to make that up out of hide, and I'm very concerned that that's going to create a real impact on the city in terms of providing basic services such as plowing the streets, fixing the roads, money for the police department. They could end up with a new police station and then have problems with staffing and other things. So I really think that's a real problem. And we have to look at that, and we're going to have to get some really firm numbers, I think, before we can make up that call. And I'm not sure that the numbers are going to alleviate my concern on the financial aspect of it. The other concern I have is a little bit more personal, although it does also involve my neighborhood. And council should know that for the last 14 months or so, my neighbors, people who live next door to me, have chosen to sell narcotics out of their home. It is ongoing, it is open, it is notorious. They make no effort to hide it. They make no bones about it. And for 14 months. When I talk to my neighbors that we're going to be spending $5.5 million or $6 million on a police station, and we can't get the police to stop a drug dealer in our neighborhood, they are not very happy about it. And I understand that I represent the whole city, but I have to live in my neighborhood. And I can tell you that living in my neighborhood is no longer very good because of this problem. And if we can't get, this comment is directed to the mayor. And Mr. Mayor, as the mayor, by statute, you are the chief law enforcement officer in this community. The police department is your responsibility. In my neighbor's view, at least in this particular instance, they have not done a very good job. And I don't see, and a lot of my neighbors do not see the logic of spending $5.5 million on a police station or whatever the amount of money is when we have lost confidence in the police department to a large extent to take care of this problem. This has been going on for 14 months. Let me say that again. This has been going on for 14 months. It has gotten to the point, and this is where the personal part comes in, where I have had to abandon a portion of my home, the bedroom, master bedroom, because you can't sleep there anymore because it's so dadgum noisy all the time. And so, from a personal perspective, even though I'm a member of council, and I understand, I represent the whole city, I I just don't see it. I think that if we're going to spend $5 million on the police department, it ought to go towards better training, more officers, better equipment, things like that, because this is a situation in which my neighbors, at least the ones I have talked to, they think that the police department either doesn't want to or is not capable of taking care of this problem. So, we wouldn't let a water line leak in the city for 14 months. We wouldn't let a code violation or something like that go on unattended for 14 months. We wouldn't allow street repairs that were needed and necessary to go on for 14 months. And that's how long it's gone on. My neighbors were cooperating. We're no longer going to cooperate with the police department on this. And I've told the chief that. We're just done. It doesn't do any good. It's a waste of time. It's just a big waste of time. That's how we feel about it.
Well,
So
I
that's where I
remember,
am.
yeah, and I remember when you first contacted me and said, I've got a kid next to me.
Well, it's not just,
It's-
it's his family.
Well, and this is how you explained it to me, that when his grandparents left and he was home alone, he would start selling drugs. And, we immediately got with the chief. And where are we at? I know you've said that there's a pending case against this gentleman. And how many times have we been out there and issued? And where are we at? What's the status on this? Because I know it's been ongoing, because obviously it's ongoing.
We actually did indict him for a trafficking charge. He's waiting to go to court. Licking County, that sometimes takes some time. We have worked numerous times out there, surveillance, and tried to, witness infractions. Unfortunately, a lot of times it comes during our peak hours, and we just don't have the manpower to go at that given time. We've used, cameras and things like that in the past. In fact, there's people in this room that have allowed us to put up cameras in their homes. I mean, we're looking at options like that. I personally have contacted the prosecutor's office and explained the situation. I mean, I feel for Mr. Barstow. My parents actually live within a stone's throw from him. It's not like we're not working on the situation. Unfortunately, it just takes time with the court system, and and sometimes it's just luck of catching them when we can. We've worked as late as today and this weekend on doing surveillance on him, as well as, I ate in that parking lot up there twice last week. I ate my lunch up there. I'd go grab, my lunch and sit and observe, trying to catch people coming in and out of there. It's not like we're not doing anything. It's just, it's sometimes it's just luck.
So it's in the court system, which you obviously know of.
Yes, I know. The chief's absolutely correct.
And as an attorney, you know how
No,
slow the
I'm-
wheels turn when something enters the court system.
I don't. The one of the people who participates in this was indicted in October, and his court case is pending. The chief is absolutely correct. Don't deny that for a minute. Don't deny the fact that the court system can sometimes be inefficient. We're not talking. I didn't say a word about the court system. My neighbors aren't mad at the court system.
Yes.
Neighbors are mad at the police department. Many of them believe that the police department just is not doing enough, and the fact that this family, I think there's one person who's principal, but I think this family, they continue to open, in the broad daylight, in front of people, in front of me on 2 or 3 occasions, what appears to me to be selling narcotics. I'm talking about as close as you and I are, Mr. Mayor, right now at this meeting. And that's how close, I'm standing out there in my driveway, and there it is. On Friday morning, I don't want to sound like a whiner, but on Friday morning, there were so many cars. It's a condo. We have a common driveway. There were so many cars parked up in there, I could barely get out to get to work. I had to weave around people who were parked up all over there, helter-skelter, okay, his customers, and whoever else was there, weaving in and out, me trying so I can get to work. So
What does your homeowners association say or do, or do they have anything?
They're, well, they are meeting, they're meeting with their attorney, I know that. I think they had that initial meeting last week, they're looking at different things that they can do, so. But I am just speaking on, because my HOA and members, several of them, and my neighbors asked me to speak out, and I am, and personally, it's very frustrating for me.
And are all the residents where you live, are they aware of the current indictment?
I don't know if they're aware of the indictment. I don't know that. I know one thing they're aware of. They're aware of the fact that there are at times just a nonstop parade of cars in and out of our neighborhood, and our neighborhood is small streets. There's no through traffic, and so people come flying down through there to get to where they need to go to this place, and so they're just very, very frustrated.
Have we offered any camera surveillance? Have we installed any cameras in your residence to try and catch this guy?
I don't think we need to start
Yeah.
getting into that.
All right.
I don't think that's necessary.
Well, I'm just trying to reach some, I want people to know that, one, we're working on it. Obviously, if he's been indicted, and it's working its way through the court system, and Bruce has just said that we're still constantly trying. So, I mean, it's not that we're saying, hey, we're not going to do anything about it. That happens all over the city with people that, hey, I've got this person, with planning and zoning, or with zoning violations. I hear it all the time. This person has 20 dogs. Can you do anything about it? Well, by the time it goes through the court system, it might be a year and a half, but it's not that we're not working on it. So
Your concern for my neighbors is duly noted, sir. Thank you. I'll let them know how you feel. That's all I have to say on it.
That's not where I was headed with this. I just want your residents to know that we are working on it, and the gentleman's been indicted. So I hope that they have that information. We're not just doing nothing. So, yes, sir.
Not to necessarily jump off that topic, but I do have a question, and it relates to the bonds. It relates to the when will we know which direction we're going? I don't believe we do yet. Is that correct?
You mean whether we're going for
The funding mechanism, and then the next meeting technically would be the third reading on this.
Right. Right now, it's looking like it is financially a lot more. Makes a lot more sense to do the private placement approach.
And I would.
I'll get those out to council shortly.
I'm not going through, obviously, the situation that Mr. Barstow's going through. I would echo the same concerns, although I would say from the beginning, I have known that this, the rental space that Mr. Barstow brings up is indeed an area of concern, and I think it has been, not only the individual suddenly putting in a bond, like Mr. Barstow said, but even if the economy were to take a left-handed turn. And that danger is indeed prevalent, and that's something we should all look at as we move forward with the next reading.
Do we have rental history? How far back do we have rental history on this building?
What do you mean?
Like if it went full or empty or half full or whatever? It's always been full, hasn't it?
There have been times where there have been vacant spaces. Just recently, as far as last year, the old doctor's office was vacant for a while, and we weren't collecting income on there. So, as far as history, as far as capacity, no, we don't have. But historically, we could look back and see what rental revenue was over the last several years.
Mr. Powell?
Yeah, I'm still, new, I'm learning a lot, and so I haven't been able to spend a lot of time, as much time as I'd like to, going over the nuts and bolts of the police station, but $5 million is a lot of money. And I guess it's a reasonable question to maybe understand how we came, because again, I wasn't here when this first came to fruition, but how we kind of rose in the numbers as far as how much money we're going to spend on the police station.
And I can, real quick, when we initially talked about this, it was, and I'm trying to remember, but the needs assessment had about $4 million in there for base, and then it also took into consideration the cruiser shuttle, which we're talking about. So we were up over $4 million for that. That was based just on needs assessment, had nothing to do with spaces or materials or anything. And then as we started to get more into the design, we landed, the design, I believe, roughly, or not the design, the cost estimate for construction's roughly 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, and then you throw on the $500,000 for the issuance or the design. That's $5 million, and then there's the buffer, as we said, for some of the soft costs. So, and what I'll do is go back through history and start from the very beginning of the needs assessment and start pulling out those numbers and provide those to all of council. Just the history of all the different cost estimates we've received and, where these numbers have come in during that time. And I'll do that this week.
So it's never really technically been like $4 million out the door.
Never.
There's
There's never been a solid number. The needs assessment was based on basically a bubble drawing, what our needs were. That was very low level. Very preliminary numbers, and as you start to get into it, I'll liken it to a road where you come in with an engineer's estimate where there is no work put in, cost of materials or anything. It says, historically, if this was the case, it would cost this much. And then as you start to build on it, look at materials and everything, you start to apply true numbers to those. But there's never been, $4 million, that's all you're ever going to spend, and it's increased from that. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Just for a little historical perspective, I was the chair of Buildings and Grounds when this discussion first started about the need of a new police station. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to take a tour of the current police station, the Old Town Hall, which is a really fantastic building to get to go through and look at everything. But when you're in there, you can see that it's clearly not designed to be a police station, especially for the number of residents that we now have in the city and what they are required to do out of there. So I have always been a strong advocate of the new station for the city. With that, the idea, I come back to something Dan Hayes said to me a long time ago that sticks in my head is, you never know what councils in the future are going to think of us. Because here we are thinking we're doing something wonderful, and 10 years down the road, they're going to be like, what the hell were they thinking, saddling us with this? So that constantly runs through my mind. But what we tried to do was find a way that we could get this station done with no additional burden on our taxpayers, which is why we are using the land that we already own behind, because trust and believe this is not where I wanted a police station to be. But I compromised. I won't, well, not like I had a choice, but I won't have a fit, rather. So, we've tried to make sure that everything inside of it is very economical. And Mr. Lee, who's taken over the charge, has been very good about that. But I guess where I get nervous, and maybe this is because I've not been through a process like this before, is when we start talking about these numbers. And it is, moving target is probably the best description I've heard because of the nature of it. It goes here and there, and we haven't had, I mean like a side-by-side, what is our rental income versus what the note would be? What is the contract for our current tenants? How long are they supposed to be here? What is their commitment to us? I think it's those kind of things that make me not change my mind at all about the police station, but the pace that we move towards it, making sure that we're just covering every base that we need to. Not that I don't trust the expertise of the administration, just that, when I put my vote in, it certainly affects more people than me on a number of levels. So those are the things that I would like to see, and it's just unfortunate that we're down so many people this evening, because this is something that I think a discussion of a full council needs to be had. So I get to a procedural question. If I were to say no, and this second reading would fail this evening, where does that put the overall piece of legislation? Does it just set it back, or we still have the third reading? Never mind. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I get it now. But yeah, so I just want to let you guys know that I'm not in favor of what we're doing, but I am nervous. So that's all I've got.
Well, I could talk all night. I know that a lot of these rental concerns were brought up. We spent 2 years, Bruce and the administration and myself and some of the police officers, making sure that this was a bare bones, only the stuff we basically needed to last us for 25 or 30 years. So it hasn't been taken lightly. But I appreciate your input on, yes, we probably better look at how long is COTC going to be here, and it was a fantastic idea to use the rental from here. I would like to think that I get people asking for certain sizes of buildings, and for a time I was sending them to you because we did have the doctor's office open. So I think we've recovered a little bit economically. I think it was LAP that came down and wanted that building and ended up remodeling it and going from the smaller building to the bigger room, and we rented the other one pretty darn quickly, didn't we? I'm sorry? COTC took it over. I know that in previous discussions with COTC that they love having, even though they have their campus there and their campus in Newark, and plans to build another campus, hopefully, that they love being here. So, I'm just throwing that out there, but yeah, we really do need to have everybody here and have an in-depth discussion.
I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. Just again, as I'm going back and thinking about everything, this came up when we paid the building off here.
Correct.
When we no longer had any debt owed on this building. So the idea was, what if we can put that money to the side and use the rental income in addition to the note we'd already been paying to pay for this police station? And we went through the discussion of having a separate fund to have that money put away in. So it has, I'm not saying it's not been well thought out.
Right.
It's just,
Well, I would say that fund also, I don't know, am I recognized?
Go ahead.
That fund also has a chunk of change in it.
yes.
Approximately $175,000.
We made that retro a couple years ago, or a year and a half ago.
All of 15, and all of 15 we retroed, 15 back in, and 16 would go forward.
Any comments, Chief, before I get ready to move on?
I don't want to speak toward the bond stuff. That's not my lane. But, the FBI, they do a study every year, and they take information from all across the country and the U.S. territories, and they have a formula, and they tell you what, your manpower should be. And for a city our size and population, we should be somewhere between 32 and 47 officers. We're at 20 full-time and 3 part-time. Could we do a better job? Absolutely we could. But, for about half, a little bit more than half of a 1% income tax, I just want to say that I think we do a really, really good job at what we do. I want to make sure everybody knows that Pataska is a really, really safe place. All my family lives here. But, not only am I worried about Mr. Barstow's neighbor, I just got a letter last week that, one of the Daily Gang is getting released back into the city next week or so. It's an individual that I actually arrested during that whole situation. He fought, and he wasn't cuffed until I ripped him completely out of his shirt. In his pocket, he had a bulk amount of ecstasy and a loaded firearm. We have that. We have a couple that are making meth and selling meth on the streets of Pataskala right now. We just put another individual in prison for 7 years for trafficking in crack cocaine. We have another methamphetamine dealer that we're working. We almost had him to the point where we were going to arrest him, but the informant worked up the chain, and so we're holding off on making those arrests until he takes down this bigger criminal organization. I'm working with another federal organization right now with a resident that I'm not comfortable talking about. There are elements of organized crime living in and right around the city that move methamphetamine and cocaine on a daily basis. Mr. Barstow, I'm really sorry that you have to go through the things you have to go through, but these are the situations that go on every day as well. And again, with 20 officers versus, I'm not saying we need 32 or 47 officers by any means. However, if we get more officers, I can't even house the officers we have right now. I don't know what I would do with 32 officers, to be honest with you. There's no place to put them. We can't have meetings and things like that. We went down this path for the building because it was, we saw that there was an absolute need for it. Again, I apologize, Mr. Barstow. Again, we made a traffic stop today from surveillance on the residents. We're working. I've personally, myself and Detective Ramsey, have cultivated 2 separate informants trying to get into him specifically for that reason. We are not just sitting by and letting him do what he wants to do. I have another officer who is personal friends with the bailiff of the judge that has his case, and he went to him as late as this weekend and had a conversation and said, I hope you folks are doing, or aren't going to let this guy do what we think you're going to let him do. I've made numerous calls to the former prosecutor's office. It was a rough way the whole time. In fact, I don't even know if you know, but the prosecutor that had his case is no longer at the prosecutor's office. We're working to light a fire, if you will, to get that situation taken care of.
Well, again, I would have to say, Chief, I didn't say that the police department did a bad job overall. I said my neighbors believe that the police department is doing a bad job in our neighborhood. They don't know what else goes on in the neighborhood, and I certainly have not specific awareness that you do, but I'm not blind to the fact that there's all kinds of things going on in the city. But to the point as to how we spend the money, we think we do need more officers. I think that's coming. It's just that I have a group of angry neighbors. Okay, I have a group of pretty angry neighbors, and when they find out that this is what's going to happen, they're not very happy about it. So that was just my, and I apologize, but it is personal for me because I live right next door to this mess. Okay, right next door. So it's not a good situation. But that aside, I still have a lot, having more and more issues on the financial aspect of this than I am on the other aspect. Just so I get a lot more upset about the other aspect of it than I do about the financial aspect. But I still have a lot of issues. I still have a lot of concerns about the financial aspect. It was a great idea. I mean, it is a great idea to be able to take the savings from the note on this building and the rental income on this building and apply it towards the note for the police station. It's a very good idea. It was Mr. Hayes' idea, as I recall.
Yes.
I think it was Mr. Hayes' idea. The concept is good. The question is, and at that point we weren't talking about numbers. We had no idea how much money it was going to cost. But the concept is fine. It's just that now that we get to the point where we're going to have to build this building, that's where I start to have, I don't know what Ms. Carter said, fear or apprehension, anxiety. Okay,
Anxiety,
that's probably, to me, that's probably the bigger concern than anything that's going on next door to me. So.
Well, and I appreciate your comments, and I take them seriously, and I don't want you to. My comment earlier, I think, may not have come out as clear as I wanted to. That I've run into situations like your own with with other neighbors and friends and even family members who've lived here who we, we're trying to get this guy for something and keeps dragging on, and we wish we could do something. And we are trying, but it seems like an eternity to them. And I'm sure it does to you if you have to move from one room to another just to enjoy your home. So I'd like to continue this discussion.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
You and me afterwards, is that
That's
fine?
fine.
Very good. All right, that's 4277. Ordinance 2017-4278 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Powell. Kathy, when you're ready, second reading.
Ordinance 2017-4278. This is the second reading, an ordinance to rezone property located at 124 Coors Boulevard, parcel number 064-0684600-00.022, totaling 3.804 plus or minus acres in the city of Pataskala from the Professional Research Office, PRO, zoning classification to the multifamily residential RM zoning classification.
Any discussion? Okay, on to reports. You'll find on your desks the latest Licking County magazine that talks about all of Licking County, including Pataskala. That just came out this week at the Groundhog Breakfast. You may have gotten a email today that I forwarded you concerning the Investor Breakfast, CIC Licking County, Grow Licking County Investor Breakfast. I'd love for you folks to come. I know Mr. King has RSVP'd, and it gives a nice overall. It's only about an hour and a half. It's in Newark this year at the Reese Center, and it really does recap what's going on. And it's a good breakfast, and you're back to work by 9:30 or 10. So I hope you guys can make that, since we are all investors. Let's see. On the 21st, I think I mentioned this once before, but I'll mention it again. The gentleman is coming to discuss the bullying program. We're working on a drug task force, Drug-Free Clubs of America, and getting those incorporated in both the schools, and this gentleman stepped up. It's a very professional organization that tries to combat bullying, so he'll be here on the 21st. Let's see. And do you have anything in your report about the Gypsy Moss spraying? Are you going to bring us up to date on that?
Not tonight.
Okay, not tonight?
Yep.
That's all right. Mr. Hicken.
I have two main items. The first one is in the form of an update for council. Previously, council had tasked leadership and Kathy with coming up with a procedure for vacancies, how we fill vacancies. You basically saw some of it kind of in action tonight. We also were tasked, I guess, with putting together the change that actually is contained in your agenda tonight, which is number 8 under order of business. However, I just want council to know that after some discussions with Mr. Zetz, the overall feeling is that we maybe, instead of making a formal change to how we fill vacancies and putting it in our rules of order, Mr. Zetz, and I'll just speak for you, Brian, jump in here if I'm wrong, but one of his concerns was if you begin to codify or put into your rules how you're going to fill your vacancies, and then there's one small mistake where you don't exactly follow that rule, you set yourself up for people possibly even casting a vote like a BZA vote and finding out that they were improperly put on the board in the first place. You run more risk of it biting you in the proverbial keister. So I still have the development of that document. I think we're going to move into almost using it as guidance. And I didn't want council to be looking for that from me or wondering why it was not appearing tonight. That is why. And so I think, unless you want to jump in and varnish that any.
Nope.
Okay.
That's exactly what we talked about. I think you,
And
summed it up
then
perfectly.
the other question I have is almost a question, and I don't know if it's going to be contained. I didn't see it, but and it has to do with the problem that is indeed going on at Licking County right now. And it was just a general question of the administration about the proliferation of ransomware stuff. Are we constantly backing our system up so that we don't get into a situation that we apparently the papers, and I realize papers are going to say what they're going to say, but happened at Licking County, and so I would ask that question for either of you.
Yeah, for the last several years, we've been working with our IT provider, finding ways to enhance our data security. The first step was no longer hosting our email server, being a Microsoft hosted server, or rather an application. Our servers are now basically being run by our IT provider in a data center in downtown Columbus, which they maintain all the firewalls and all the data security. They push out our antivirus so that every computer that's on the network has updated antivirus and it's scanned on a regular basis. So yeah, we're doing everything we can. You don't know what you don't know until you find out. In a place like Licking County, they found out the hard way. We are set to meet with our rep from Keytel a week from Friday to take it to the next level, which would be business resumption, disaster recovery, coming up with formal processes and documents. What happens if? What happens if this building is uninhabitable? What happens if we lose our servers? Kind of working through the nuts and bolts. But yeah, for right now, we have our IT provider basically manage that process for us, and we're following up on that.
I'll say we've come a long way. It used to be that a couple years ago we had a server here and nothing was being backed up beyond the server. So now, as Jamie mentioned, it's being backed up to a third-party server. We've certainly, and when I say backed up, it's not just our desktops, it's also our financial systems, it's also our mayor's court systems, it's all that stuff that's being backed up. So that's off-site. And that's good for a couple reasons. One's for disaster recovery. If something was to happen here at this building, and there's a server here, it certainly would be easier to get back up and running with that being the case. Second thing is it's just another added layer of security. So we've become more robust with our IT security. We are going to that next level, though, looking at the business resumption plan, and I'm going to be implementing that. We were planning on that, but now with what happened in Licking County, pointing a spotlight on it, certainly something that has risen to the surface.
Okay, that's all I have.
All righty. Mr. Zetz?
Thank you, Mayor. On here is listed that medical marijuana. Yeah, I'd like to really, I think it'd probably be best if all council were here when we really talked about that. The nuts and bolts, the things to think about between now and our next council meeting is council has the ability to either prohibit or limit the number of cultivators, processors, and retail dispensaries. So, that's the big thing we get to do from a zoning aspect if council wants to do that. So I would say, think about those things. I can give you, I've given multiple presentations, so I could bring an hour PowerPoint in if you really want to know everything there was to know about medical marijuana. I'm sure you don't, but I know, so I can answer any questions you have. We could talk through it a little bit more next time, but I would like to see if council has some idea that they're going to even want to go down the path of limiting or prohibiting, that we talk about that at the next meeting so then we can get an ordinance on, because if council decides that's the direction they want to take, you have to pass an ordinance. You're not allowed to pass a resolution, so it'll have to be by ordinance. So I guess just some little nugget to think about of, am I going to want to think about prohibiting or limiting it, or if not, and then we can have that formal discussion at the next meeting. But that's the 40,000 foot question that's going to have to be answered.
Any input on that? Yeah, I think everybody needs to be here, and I know time is of the essence by the time we have another meeting, and then we draft an ordinance, and then it's passed, and there's time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
is there some sort of deadline in the statute? Does it have to be, maybe the sooner the better, but is there some sort of hard date that we have to get it done by?
Well, here's the answer I give. Well, there is a hard date. The hard date actually isn't until September 8th of 2017. I say that's the hard date, but the date for the rules for the cultivators have already been vetted, publicly commented, and all but adopted. I mean, they haven't been formally made part of the Ohio Administrative Code yet, but they are done, and you can go to, if anybody wants to read up about this in between now and then, medicalmarijuana.ohio.gov. Wonderful website. All the information is there. Everything you need to know about the rules, the proposed rules, it's all there. It's a wonderful, wonderful website. So, yeah, the hard deadline is September. My fear is, well, not my fear, but my thinking is the rules for all these steps may be in place before then because, they're starting to move through them. You have the dispensary rules, the physician rules are in the vetting stage. Well, they're through public comment now. So you're going to see those more formalized. So that's where we are.
So it's the sooner the better.
Yeah, I think,
We're gonna do something.
last September when it passed, everyone's like, oh, don't worry about it. I don't think you have to worry about it, but now's the time you got to think about it and do if you want to do anything.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
With the timeline we've got.
Right.
Yes, sir.
At the next meeting then, Brian, can we spend a little bit more time? Because what the administration would like is potentially some direction from council. You and I had talked about it, even starting at the highest level and presenting, not necessarily it's the recommendation, but presenting legislation to council at some point, just prohibiting everything and starting at the higher level. And then, whittling it down. Maybe that's what we go with. Maybe it's a change from that. Maybe it's nothing. But ultimately, depending on feedback we get from council.
Well, I mean,
starting at that
just
point.
for the folks who are in attendance today, that would maybe a way to start. And you could have a first reading on a piece of legislation that's a flat out prohibition, and you could dial it down from that. Or you could have the discussion at the next meeting. Not that you'll be deciding anything, but have some idea of the direction you do want to go. And if it's, hey, we're not going to prohibit anything, then we won't waste the time. But drafting up that legislation won't be that hard because literally over the weekend I did an exact piece of legislation for another village. So it's not something that'd be tough to do. But if that's where you think you want to start, because that's the easiest place to start and back down from a flat prohibition. You could start that process and then have those discussions during the readings, and potentially that could cut you a week out of 2 weeks out of the process because you could start a reading next time. Like I have it ready for council. That's not a problem at all.
All right, anything else tonight, sir?
No.
Okay. Mr. King.
I only have one item. It was mentioned earlier tonight about Oak Meadow. Certainly, we have money in the budget this year for the design of Oak Meadow. I anticipate that being presented at the next council meeting to begin the design. And there is money there is money identified in 2018, and I anticipate that being presented as part of the 2018 budget with a recommendation to approve it to do the actual work on Oak Meadow. So it's certainly in our sights, and we are proceeding accordingly. That's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. King? Mr. Nicholson.
Thank you, Mayor. Start off, I apologize for the length of my report. I had a lot of great information that I want to share with you guys, and I know it just can be an overwhelming document. But starting off with copiers, we currently lease our copiers here in the building. Police as well. Leases we do operating leases where basically at the end of the 4-year lease, we swap out another one and just kind of keep them rolling. Copiers are not the kind of thing you necessarily want to own because maintenance costs go skyrocketing once they get to be 4 or 5 years old. So on the agenda tonight is a resolution authorizing the city to administer to enter into lease with Konica Minolta. The details are in there about the copiers, and basically it's actually we're going to save a little bit of money and enhance the planning and zoning copier at the same time, so it works out well. In addition, the property casualty and liability insurance renewal has been received and analyzed, and I think I've distributed all the information to council. It's about a 7% increase over 2016 rates, combination of claims and increased valuation on vehicles and trucks and the like. Some litigation has driven up some of those costs as well. So, but that's the budget that we put in has enough appropriations to cover it, so we're good for that. So we'll be seeking approval for that tonight on a resolution. There's a supplemental on the agenda to approve appropriations for the River Forest, right?
River Forest
River Forest lift station. Due to timing at the end of the year, that appropriation lapsed. We weren't able to get it encumbered and carried over, so we're asking for council's approval on that. Due to the lack of a fifth, 5 members of council, we will not be seeking the waiver of the second and third readings, because I believe it takes, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, it takes 5 council members present to waive those readings.
Correct.
So we'll work around that and make it work, and it's all good for that. The bond ordinance is on there, as we already discussed. Tim, just in response, I did have a little bit of information. If we go with a 15-year note is what we're looking at, either way, right? So if we go a 15-year non-callable note with the bank, private placement, versus a 15-year with a 10-year call provision, general obligation debt, typical bond, they'll save about $40,000 a year in debt service, so about $600,000 over the life of that bond. So right now, and of course, this all depends on what the rates are doing, and the rates are bouncing everywhere. So, but for now, it definitely would be, we would take the approach of going with the private placement. So that's where we'd be going with that.
Thank you.
Oh, the last thing is, there was some information on the financial health indicators. The Auditor of State's Office released financial health indicators on every city and village, which, is kind of interesting. I pulled our report off, and we were, of the 17 indicators, we were green on all but 3 of them. One was, all but 2 of them. One was yellow. The traffic light, green, yellow, red. Green is a positive outlook. Yellow is cautionary, and red is obviously a very negative thing. We had one that was black, and it's because we don't put our income tax into our general fund. We're unique in that respect. So that indicator looks at change in income tax revenues in the general fund. So obviously it's not relevant since we don't put them in the general fund. But I did, in my report, I did an analysis. If you take the police station, the police fund, and the street fund, and the general fund, you make that sort of our general fund with air quotes, what that indicator would have looked like, and it would have been green. So by and large, they're very positive indicators for the city. So I mean, those are all that's good stuff. And that's all I have for council.
Any questions for Jamie?
I don't think you identified what the yellows were.
The one yellow was the general fund unassigned balance. Our general fund dropped by a small amount year over year, but again, our general fund doesn't look like everybody else's general fund. Again, if I took the 3 funds and added it together as if we operated like, financially like other communities, it would have been green as well. It would have been a positive trend upwards between if you're adding the 2 funds plus the general fund together. Yeah. We file our financials. Every community is required to file on what's called the Hinkle system, and basically, it's a fixed system that you have to make your ledger fit into their system, and so they can compare every community on that same line across type of thing. And so, we are a little unique in that respect. Like when we meet with Moody's to go over our ratings presentations, we do have to kind of re-educate them as far as you really can't look at our general fund to other communities' general fund. You have to take our 3 funds, and that's really what you have to kind of look at as if it was our general fund.
Right.
So, and they get that, and they understand that, and that's why it's a little stronger than just straight general fund.
Thank you.
Jamie, of course, I know since I've been on council, every year we've added, some new John Deere tractors, some very expensive ones, brand new snow plows, very expensive ones. What is and I think when I say insurance, I'm talking about that 7%. What's it typically been? Has it gone up every year? I mean, it'd have to if we're replacing cruisers with newer ones, they're worth more. Snow plows, John Deere tractors. Does it go up every year?
It does. I can look back past renewals to see how it compares year over year. I'm thinking last year we saw something more in the 3 to 4 range, but that's a vague memory. So I'll pull some information to go back in recent history to see what the increases have been. We are trying to be more selective with the claims we submit. So if you've got something like in the utility, if it's a major hit, we're willing to submit the claim. But if it's a kind of thing where it's a $1,500, $2,000 claim, we may think twice, no different than you might as an individual on your house, because you submit a $2,000 claim, you might end up, your rates go up dramatically. So we're trying to be much more selective in the claims we submit. But
Okay.
yeah, that's.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else for Jamie?
But getting that information to us, as I understand it, this piece of legislation that we're talking about there, the insurance one, if we don't pass that our insurance would lapse. Is that correct?
No, we had the conversation last year on this. The policy officially lapse on the 19th of February. That's the cycle. We have a 30-day binder, just like your car insurance, or your home. When you buy a new car, you get the binder, and then you have 30 days to pay the premium. So for a period of time, you would have coverage. Ideally, it's preferable to have council authorization prior to that, so that we can go ahead and make the payment and sign the contract and be renewed.
Essentially, it would officially lapse before the next council meeting, but we would have the 30-day grace period, which is not ideal, as Jamie mentioned.
Thank you.
Okay. Nate?
Yes, this evening you have a resolution, I don't know the number, but it's for a purchase of an automatic transfer switch for water treatment plant number 1. We had a nice utility committee meeting last week. I brought this up. We had a situation due to rodent intrusion that caused the failure of our automatic transfer switch. This switch is in place to, since utility power is off, generator turn on, transfer power, we keep running like we normally would. Some critters got caught in some components and it did not transfer, so we got called that the power was out. Noticed the smell of burning things, rodent and plastic, and long of the short, it pretty much melted all of the mechanical operational components of this panel. So we called our supplier, Buckeye Power Sales. They do all our maintenance for us. It's a specialized trade is what I would say. And there are no replacement parts on the market for our current model. So we're looking at buying a new transfer switch. Transfer switch itself, I think, is like $9,800, but there's roughly a $3,000 installation fee for a certified electrician to come out and handle all the in and outs of the electrical wires. So we added a $1,000 unknown scenario amount in there in case we dig into this and find something else. We've sent the info to the insurance company to see if something like this is covered. Our deductible is $5,000, so if we're lucky, we only have to pay that. At this point, I don't think we're going to be lucky because we have not heard anything back in response, even with our nice pictures that we sent. So that's for that. I can't remember what else I was going to tell you, but you have my reports. We've completed all our annual reports. That's all done. We'll start getting the word out on the annual requirement of the Consumer Confidence Report. That is done. We'll get that out in the bills and start spreading the word on that. And our projects and goals for 17 are moving along and taking off. River Forest, we had a pre-construction meeting today. We're not going to sign anything until that ordinance is passed, or an official start date, and things are great.
Anything for Nate? Does Buckeye Power Sales supply the electrician, or is that something we supply?
Anything that they do, they're going to charge us an administrative fee. So if they hire an electrician and they do the footwork, they're going to charge us for it. So we may end up hiring our own.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was the whole ball of wax.
Yeah, they could, but there's a fee with that. So
Okay.
I think the cheaper route
Very good.
is the.
Anything else for Nate? Okay, Mr. Haynes?
Thank you, Mayor. On tonight's agenda, there are two resolutions for equipment for the Public Service Department. Both have been identified in the approved 2017 budget. One is for a cold planer. We're actually demoing a used cold planer today. We're out on Saddle Path Road, took a couple swaths through there and filled those with hot mix. It went very well. The guys really like that equipment. They're also willing to throw in a new set of teeth for that, which we could get at about a third of the price. So we're liking that idea for the cold planer. And then for the equipment trailer, that is a trailer we identified, like I said, in the budget for, so we can carry the equipment that we already have, such as the backhoe, which we currently do not have a trailer that is rated to carry that. And then aside from that, wanted to mention that our OPWC project got funded. So that is for the Columbia Road box culvert, just south of Mill Street on Columbia. Narrow culvert, kind of a hump there. Going to replace that culvert, widen the road, and add some guardrail. Only other thing is ramp engineering is in progress, and looking forward to a streets committee meeting to dial into the details of that.
Anything for Alan?
The culvert on Mill, would that's for this year? Or 18?
Well, there's two culverts. There's a culvert on
I'm
Columbia.
sorry, south of Mill on Columbia.
Yes.
Okay.
That will be this year's project.
Okay.
Funds will be released usually right around the 1st of July for OPWC.
Thank you.
That's the one about a quarter of a mile from Refugee back towards us, right?
It's probably about an eighth of a mile south of Mill.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's big hump. The ditch, the creek ditch runs for about 600 feet on the west side of the road.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tim, that is state fiscal year 18, which starts July 1st, 17.
So for us, I just want to know if that's okay. I want to make sure, I just was asking, is it going to happen this summer? Kind of an idea. And I've driven over that before. It's
Skinny and dangerous. I know
Skinny
our
and
bus,
dangerous.
our bus
That's a
drivers
good way to
have
put it.
brought that to our attention many times, and so that'll be good. Anything else for Alan? And by the way, I just happened to be going home for lunch and got to see that cold planer in action as they are going to, and of course your plan to cold plane those areas, fill them, roll them out, get them smooth, and then put chip and seal on, and boy, that's a neat machine. And how many folks would be on that? Like if you sent a crew out to do cold planing and patching, how many guys would that take?
Today we had one guy run the cold planer, and then two guys would get out and shovel, and then we'd have the hot box, which is usually another 2 to 3 guys. So we basically had the whole department running on that operation today.
Okay. Very good. Nice job, by the way. Every time you guys go out there to experiment on the Saddle Path, I get calls from the Saddle Path folks saying thanks. They don't mind being a guinea pig because the road gets fixed. So thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Fulton.
Thank you, Mayor. Two things from my report I wanted to point out. We're currently going through all of our old zoning permits and taking them from paper to electronic so that we can upload them into our GIS system. The general process is outlined in my report, and based upon our estimates of about 15 years of permits that we have, we're going to have about 9,000 permits, and that's a conservative estimate. More than likely, when it's all said and done and we've completed digitizing all the permits, we're probably going to be well over 10,000 permits that will be uploaded to the GIS system. So once it's done, it will be amazing, but the part doing this now is not amazing. But it's one of those that we have to work to get it there, and we'll reap the rewards once we get there. Also, I put in a development update, and this is on the last page of the report. And a lot of times when I go through my reports and say this went to Planning and Zoning Commission or this went to BZA, here's what happened, I don't think it outlines the picture enough in terms of where it is in the process. So I've included a development update that kind of shows the process, that from start to finish, here's where we are, and it's color-coded. So it'll have green for those that are done, yellow for something that's where we are in the process, and red are the next steps in the process that still need to be done. So I'd be happy to answer any question. Oh, also on this is not a complete list. I just wanted to put it out there for review and comment by council, so that as we populate the list more, that if there's something that's working or not, we know. So as we populate that, we can make the appropriate changes. Happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Scott? I just want to mention, and also to Alan, but first you weren't here last week or at the last meeting, but I, as a member of our Lions Club, had come to Planning and Zoning because we're thinking about putting an addition on, and I just want to applaud your crew and Lisa and Zach, everybody involved, because I received the same day a packet showing Google Earth pictures and how she wanted it filled out, and the application and the permit and everything in a nice folder that I've taken back to our Lions Club to discuss. So kudos.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And Alan, you weren't here last week or last meeting either, but I appreciate your help in reaching out to the fellow veteran in Barrington Ridge and working with him on that street issue. I appreciate that, going the extra mile. So thanks to both of you. Chief?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Anything for the chief?
I actually,
Yes.
something, I had a resident reach out to me who lives on Dixon Road, which is a unique animal. Half of it, only the east side of it's in the city, with concerns of speeding. And he's a retired gentleman and said that he doesn't leave his house unless it's between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. because people will pass him if he's driving 35 on the road, or try to run him down when he goes to his mailbox. So I was just hoping maybe we could, if there's a spot we could set the speed sign out there. I mean, I've traveled Dixon, and people they go a little crazy. They get ahead of themselves out there. So maybe we can talk about exactly who and where later.
Okay. Yeah, we actually just are working on getting our speed trailer back up in service, and we'll definitely make that a spot.
Well, and it's interesting as we have somebody come to us, and they canceled on us at the last meeting, the development committee, but wanting to develop on the west side of Dixon. And they made the comment, it wouldn't take a strain on our schools or anything of that nature, but we would still have the additional traffic on a road that's probably not equipped to handle a lot of additional traffic, and probably a number of unhappy residents if we add additional traffic. So
I actually have met with Mr. Zetz about that road specifically, and we determined that the Franklin County side, there's nothing we can do to enforce that traffic. However, if we got that development, then we would have the whole roadway through there, and
interesting.
that would be perfect for us.
Interesting. Okay. It's just another one of those situations as we come up where we continue to grow, but our infrastructure was never really designed for the amount of people that we have. So we have to be careful as we move forward, but we'll talk about who it was later.
And that's a very famous morning cut through. I don't know about evening as much as I do morning, but they love to come across from Morse Road, cut down Dixon, fly down Taylor to get to Broad and other places, but you can tell they're not from here, and they've got blinders on because they're late for work, and yeah, it's just a bad stretch in there. I hate the cut throughs, but
I used to use it to get to 161, and I've been
oh, you were one of those.
doing the speed limit, but
But she's from here.
just for the record. But no, it'll be completely dark outside, and somebody will pass you in the dark on that road, and the whole time I'm thinking, just get past me, because it's scary. So
Talk about a little country road, sure.
yeah.
All righty. Committee chair reports.
I have one.
Mr. Hicken.
As Mr. Cooey mentioned, we did have a Utilities Committee meeting on January 30th, and it was a 2-hour meeting. Just to put it into perspective, when you think about committee meetings, usually rule of thumb is anything over 1 is not productive, but I don't think that's the case here. We did talk about the Watkins Road repair. There was a water leak on Watkins Road. Basically, it had been allowed to stay in the position it was in for a short period of time, but the utilities department did finally make that change, and it was successful. We did talk about the transfer switch that is on the agenda for this evening coming up, and although no formal resolutions were passed, or there were no motions passed by the utility committee, I think everybody in attendance agreed that the transfer switch was something that was needed, and we were indeed, after Nathan's almost a duplicate description of what he gave us here tonight. We all felt that indeed that was worthwhile. We spoke a little bit about the supplemental appropriation on the River Forest Lift Station, a little update on that, and the fact that it was going to be coming up, and I think everybody understands why and is in favor of moving forward and getting the River Forest Lift Station project going as fast as possible. And then the majority of that meeting was spent on an update on the new agreement that is being worked on between the city and Southwest Licking Sewer and Water. Southwest Licking Sewer and Water District. This is represents a little bit of a fundamental shift in many ways. I give full credos to the new administrator out there, Mr. Conkle and Mr. Cooey, for meeting with each other and beginning the process of talking through how the city can better interact with Southwest Licking and what options might be available to define everything from service areas to how they can move north. I will be honest, there are some outside the box thinking on the table, at least as it exists now. That includes our current out of city water taps, water service to Beechwood Trails, and how we would also possibly come to an agreement on servicing property which is in the city, Fannin and Deagle, and given the history of what we just went through, the fact that that work was put in and we've started a productive dialogue, I think is wonderful, and I'm really grateful for that. I'd also say that the committee was interested to hear all those things, but really needs to see some more financial breakdown. And once we get a financial breakdown, we would move forward with possibly meeting with the district as elected representatives. Of course, giving council a briefing beforehand. I'm privately, if you want to ask me what's going on, I only do it for sake of brevity, but we can tell you what was discussed. It's certainly public record, but it's really interesting stuff, and I'm really heartened that we might be able to move into a cooperative feeling of mutual work for the people that we all represent and service water to, both from our own utility and citizens of ours that are serviced by an adjacent utility. And I don't know, Mr. Cooey, do you want to add anything to that? Is that nutshelly enough? Is that pretty accurate?
Fine job, sir.
I wasn't looking for the kudos, but I appreciate that. And I'll answer any questions, but it's pretty involved and it's got some back history to it. So I'm happy to discuss it with any council member. Ultimately, it's not like that utility committee is going to be moving forward without coming back and properly briefing council. So everybody here should, in the future, expect an update along the lines of the next step, which is to sit down and begin to move into a more formalized process as it relates to the agreement. So that's it for my update on the utility committee meeting.
I would just add, I was at that meeting, and it was very productive. For a 2-hour meeting, it was all good information, and I also told Nate that, you have to start somewhere, and he picked up the ball and started somewhere, so that's and it's all positive. Any other committee chair reports?
Well, we did have a agriculture committee meeting this evening. There were 2 reports that we'll be bringing to council at motion time for approval. And we also discussed, I know Scott discussed, we need to continue to make adjustments to the discharge zone map. He's going to give more information. We'll probably have another ag committee meeting about that and have more information when we get that after we have the next meeting. I don't know when that'll be, as Mr. Lee's not here, and we anticipate it'll be before the next council meeting. I mean, not before the date, but the day of, before the meeting.
This is the time of year all the ag stuff goes in, so we can just throw it on with that, right, Kathy?
Right.
Okay.
That's all I have from ag. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Any other committee chair reports? All right, on to new business. Listen, I know some of us have been sitting here since 6 o'clock. Does anybody need a break? All right, very good. Ordinance 2017-4279 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Carter. Kathy, when you're ready, first reading.
Ordinance 2017-4279. This is the first reading, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2017.
Okay, there was some discussion about dispensing with the readings, but we have to wait until we have a...
Can't do anything with it. Leave it alone.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Any discussion on this? All right. Ordinance 2017-4280 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Hicken. Kathy, when you're ready.
Ordinance 2017-4280. This is the first reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 1207 of the codified ordinances of the city of Pataskala and repealing all other ordinances and parts of the ordinances in conflict therewith.
Any discussion? Okay, on to resolutions. Resolution 2017-009, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to enter into and execute a renewal agreement on behalf of the city of Pataskala with Reinhardt Walters Danner for the purpose of liability insurance through the Ohio Government Risk Management Plan.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion and roll.
Carter,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2017-011, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to execute a contract with Buckeye Power Sales for the purchase of a new automatic transfer switch for the power generator at Water Treatment Plant Number 1.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion? I just have one. Are we manually switching that now?
In the event of a power outage, we are going to call BPS to do it because there's this little 6-inch steel. I'm not putting my hands in there
Okay.
either. So we're going to call them, and they can wear their gloves and then do it for us. So that's our backup plan until then, because it'll probably be 6 weeks before we get it anyhow.
Okay.
Just ordering.
Just crossed my mind if we
Yeah,
had an
no.
outage. How's it
We
going
get into a pinch, but we've got water plant too. So in the event,
Yeah, this is worst case scenario.
yes, worst
Okay.
case, we call them.
Very good. Kathy, roll call, please.
Howe,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Resolution 2017-012, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to enter into and execute an operating lease agreement with Konica Minolta Business Systems and Konica Minolta Premier Finance for the replacement of existing city copiers and associated maintenance agreements.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Barstow and seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion? And roll.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Resolution 2017-013, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator or his designee to advertise, receive, and open bids for the Ohio Public Works Commission, better known as OPWC, funded Columbia Road Culvert Replacement Project.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion and roll.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Resolution 2017-014, resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to purchase a skid steer cold planer attachment.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion? And roll.
Hicken,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2017-015, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to purchase a large equipment trailer.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion? And roll.
Hicken,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Resolution 2017-016, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator or his designee to purchase and have installed 2 additional gates on the Foundation Park Access Drive.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs.
Second.
Carter, seconded by Mr. Barstow. Discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to add, I'm in favor of this, but I'm not giving up on the restructuring of Foundation Park. to get rid of the road or whatever it is. So I'm leaving that out there as a nugget for you guys to chew on.
Fight for another day.
Yes.
All righty, very good. Roll call, please.
Carter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Okay, resolution passes. On the motions. Motion to amend council rules of order, section 8, to read as follows. Order of business. The mayor shall take the chair at the hour appointed for the meeting of council and shall call the meeting to order and direct the clerk to call roll. If a quorum is present, the meeting shall continue. Citizens' comments at special meetings are permitted and limited to 2 agenda items. The order of any regular or alternate meeting shall be as follows. Number 1, call to order. Number 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Number 3, roll call. Number 4, citizens' comments. Number 5, executive session if requested. Number 6, introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters. 7 is reports and committee chair reports. Then on to number 8, unfinished business. Number 9, new business. 10, additional citizens' comments. 11, executive session if requested. 12, committee meetings, announcements, scheduling issues, and general comments. And 13, adjournment. Need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Mrs. Carter and a second by Mr. Barstow. Any discussion?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Does this have to be read and not voted?
we generally, we will have a motion like we just have, then it sits on the table until the
One
next
more
meeting.
Okay.
So we get the motion part out of the way, and now it just sits. Very good. Okay, any other motions tonight?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Agriculture Committee, as I said, met earlier, and I have a motion for council to approve the Agriculture Protection District report from Mary Kay Cameron, the trustee. The address is 4108 Hazelton Etna Road, Southwest, here in Pataskala.
Okay, got a motion?
Second?
Seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion and roll on the ag application.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow.
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Motion passes. Mr. Barstow.
Mr. Mayor, likewise, the Agricultural Committee asks council to approve, and I'm moving council to approve the Agriculture Protection District report filed by John and Ann Homan. Mr. Homan, I believe, addressed council earlier, and the address of this property is 11015 Mill Street here in Pataskala.
Okay, got a motion? Need a
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion on this ag. All right, Kathy, roll when you're ready.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Any other motions this evening? Okay, moving on to additional citizens' comments. Anybody wish to speak? Mr. Fox, go home. Huh. Okay, on to committee meeting announcements, scheduling issues, and general comments. We'll start with Mr. Powell. Do you have anything tonight, sir?
Just a general comment. Chief, you brought up all the stuff you guys do in the city. I just want to, one thing we can all agree on is how much we appreciate everything the police department does. The fact that you guys are willing to go out there every day and put your lives on the line is, we say thank you, but it can never be said enough. So, thank you guys.
Okay, Mr. Hicken?
I have nothing.
Okay, Mr. Barstow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, to echo Mr. Powell's comments, my general impression of the city is that they do appreciate the police department. And however, I think that anyone can understand the real frustration that my neighbors and I have. It is really a frustrating experience. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. But we're not anti-police in my neighborhood by any stretch of the imagination. I think the police station, I think the police department needs a police station. I don't think they don't need a police station. But my concern is, just to clarify, is with the financing of it. I understand the chief's comments that if we got more officers, we'd have to have a bigger station anyway, unless we got a modular unit like the schools do. I don't think that's I don't, no, well, that, you know, that's, I'm not saying that's what, but that's where we'd be. I think we'd have to get something. If we hired 10 more officers, that'd put us at 32, I think, right? 30, something like that. We'd have to do something with them, in terms of housing them and having a place for them to go. I'm not saying we should get a modular unit. I'm just saying that would be what would happen. So, I think that, again, the idea is good. I think that where the police are now is not appropriate. But I still think there's some issues that we have to work through on this police station, and we have full council here for the third reading. We'll see where that goes.
Your HOA, would they be open to, and I know that BJ and I try to hit several different HOAs, and I know there's one coming up. Could we possibly come to a meeting to hear some of their
Good,
input?
and Chief Brooks, I don't know if I mentioned this or not. I don't think I did. Chief Brooks did come and meet with our HOA over in the summertime, I believe, springtime.
Okay.
Came up and met with us and discussed some of the problems. And we you know.
Did that issue come up at the time? Because
Oh
it's
yes,
been going on?
that was why he came to the meeting. Was that? So he has
Very good.
He came to the meeting, but we still are where we are.
Okay.
Okay, for
Very
whatever
good.
reason,
All right.
we still are where we are.
No.
So no, it's not as though we've been completely ignored. I don't want that to be. We haven't been completely ignored, but there's still a lot of frustration on the part of my neighbors.
Very good.
So, okay,
Point
thanks.
taken. Mrs. Carter?
I'm at echo Mr. Barstow's concerns. Thank God my community has not gone to the extent of the problems that yours has, but it has been disheartening to live in a community that you moved into, 11 or 12 years ago, and then watch the decline, part of it being the market, also a condo, and which I purchased, and then things tanked. So, the people who are living in the condos around me now are primarily people who are kind of transient and they rent, and it's a completely different neighborhood than it was the first 4 or 5 years that I lived there. So it is very frustrating. It's been, but we always have been fortunate. We've seen a presence of the police out there, and I'm not hesitant to call. So, and I do want to thank you guys on another note for your help at the game on Friday at Heights. It was a huge rivalry game, which we beat Watkins. Anywho, it landed on it was one of those kind of buzzer beater numbers where, like in the last 7 seconds of the game. So when the game ended, emotions were very high as people flooded the floor and tried to get out. So but it was managed very well, and we didn't have a lot of incidents. So I am grateful for that. And if you guys need advice on how to situate your modular units to get the most use out of them with your lockers, I'm sure we could help you with that. And with that, I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion to adjourn, second. Roll call, please. Or any discussion on adjourning? You got anything tonight, Mr. Zad?
No, I do not.
Okay. Go ahead, Kathy, with the roll, please.
Barstow,
Yes.
Chicken,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
8:59, not bad. Meeting adjourned.
I was going to say, they've got to be